All right, students, I am going to show you a set of examples from Unit 2 Target Summary. It's the HyperDoc, so I will link this video to that HyperDoc, which is in your Google Classroom. It's on Target 6, which is called Completing the Square, and I want you to realize that when you read the directions, it tells or gives away what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to complete, meaning add on, a perfect square, which means make one. So watch the steps. They're really the first 2 or 3 are the major steps, and after that it's just typical solving. So this format is not great for us because everything on the left is not a beautiful perfect square that I can factor. So I'm going to move the 20 over to the other side, and then what I'm going to do is try to manipulate the left equation so that I can make a perfect square. In other words, I'm going to complete a perfect square, balance the perfect square. So how do I complete that perfect square? Here's how. Here's the major step. You look at the middle term, and you think of doing FOIL in reverse. So you undo the distributive property of the perfect square. So half of 2 is 1. So if we square that, that is going to help us get a perfect square over there. But whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. So 1 squared is really 1. I need to balance my equations. So they're on both sides because you balance. You have to keep the values the same. And the reason we use the 1 is because now this is a perfect trinomial, and it can be written really easily like this now. First, last, middle term. And now when you look at this problem, this is super easy to solve now because you can undo a second power. That's what's called completing the square. Now we are not finished with the whole solution, but we are done completing the square. So the major step is complete, meaning tack on, make a perfect square, rewrite it as a perfect square, and now, from now on, it's just solving like normal. So undo, undo. When you do that to both sides, you have to realize you're going to get 2 answers on the right. The radicand will drop down, and then we're just solving like normal. So we're going to add a 1 to both sides. And what we're going to get is x equals 1 plus 5 and x equals 1 minus 5. That's super simple. That's a 6 and a negative 4. And we are done. There are our answers. So again, the major step for completing the square is to actually complete a blank and create a perfect square. Why do you want to do that? So that when you get to this step, it's easy to be taken care of. Let's try another one. Problem is, it's in the wrong order. So let's get it in the right order. So you want all the variables on the left, and you want all the values that are constants on the right. So let's add that 22 with the already negative 5. All right, now's the time. Here it comes. This is the step. Complete, make it a perfect square. How do you do that? You take half of the middle and square it, and then you tack it onto the other side. Now you could write 8 squared and 8 squared on both sides. You could write 64 and 64 on both sides. I write it this way because on the left now, this is super easy for me to see what I'm supposed to write for the perfect square. And on the right, it's ready to go to be added together. So it looks like we're going to get 17 and 64. That's 81. Love that. So those 2 steps right there, that is completing the square. So the major steps are right here and here. The first 2, completing the square. The rest of it from here on out is just solving like normal. Undo the radical on both sides. The radicals cancel out the powers. There are 2 answers over here now. And now you do both. You're going to take 8 away from both sides. So you have a positive 9, take away the 8. And you have a negative 9, take away the 8. That's going to give you a 1 and a negative 17. So please understand that the steps below are just normal solving. But the steps above, where I have the blue brackets, that's the completing the square step. Let's try those other 2 on the next set. Okay, let's just go. Move your 60. That's not real pretty on the right, so watch what happens to this when we get down there. We're going to end up having an answer that's not so nice looking. It's going to have a radical that can't be worked out. We don't want decimals because it says right here we have to have exact answers. So that means no decimals. That means you leave the radical alone. All right, so let's do our completing the square. Complete, complete. Actually, I want to do it down here, okay? So we're going to get half of 8 is 4. Square it, that'll be a 16 that we tack on to both sides. This is going to be your x with a minus and a 4. Again, first term, last term, choose the middle sign, okay? So now we've got, I have an extra step here, I apologize. That perfect square with 142. Okay, that's not going to be real pretty, but that's okay. We're done completing the square, and now we just solve. Solve. 2 answers here, but they're not real nice looking. That's okay. We'll just write them down because that's what they wanted. They don't want precision as far as approximate answers. They want precision as far as exact math. This drops down. Now we move the 4. So one way to write it is to add the 4 over, and so you get there's the 4 you added, and then plus or minus the square root of 142. That is one appropriate answer. But sometimes you need to write it twice so that you represent one answer that's for adding that number, and then one answer that goes to the left because you subtract that number. So if you're on a number line, you're literally going from 4 left and right. Okay, again, the first couple steps are the perfect square part. Let's go. Let's keep our 10x here and move our 75 to the other side by adding. That's going to turn that into 8. Here comes the step. It's this is it. Complete, 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 complete. Use a perfect square. Half of 10 is 5. Square it. Add it on to the other side. This is now a beautiful, perfect square. Middle sign's minus. Perfect square. This is 105. Again, not a pretty one, but it's going to work. So those 2 steps are done with completing the square, and now you use the radical to finish. X minus 5, positive and negative 105, and then you write your answer by moving the 5. So x equals 5 plus the square root of 105, and then x equals 5 minus the square root of 105. I hope that helps. Please reach out if you have any questions. This will be posted onto Google Classroom with that Target HyperDoc.